There are no warnings saying ziplining into a pool on your Jeep winch could result in injury or death, so it must be safe. I don't see anything wrong with this. Just don't fall out of the tree, and make sure you let go while you're over the pool and don't just slam into the front of the Jeep. It's Saturday, I'm Akorn, and welcome to the 100th episode of Gen X and Millennial Memes, the show that survived more algorithm changes than MySpace ever did. I dropped the first episode of this series on August the 13th of 2023. It was just a few weeks after I started the channel, actually, and somehow you all kept coming back for more. So, seriously, thank you for helping what started off as a single video, but is now the longest running series on the channel. Really appreciate you all. Alright, enough sentimental stuff. Let's jump into today's show, starting with this week's Pop Quiz. Before MTV launched nationwide in 1981, what was the first cable channel devoted entirely to music videos, debuting a full year earlier in 1980? If you think you know, drop it down in the comments, and then stay tuned because we're gonna have the answer later on in the show. I'm no one drank coffee in high school years old. That is a fact check true. As far as I can remember, none of my friends drank coffee. How is the difference between 2025 and 1980 the same as 1980 and 1935? I don't know, but it just ain't right. The craziest part from Home Alone was that Kevin got all those groceries for $19. Yeah, these days, for $19, it might not even pay the taxes. And if you bought $19 worth of groceries, it would definitely fit in one bag. There is a generation who won't get this, and that's sad. Yeah, that is pretty sad, really. With that said, I don't know if you guys have heard, but apparently there is a new Tremors movie in the works. The company that made the original Tremors movie now has the rights back to it, and there's also the possibility that Kevin Bacon is going to return.
Touch of blue right down here. Just let it dance. Whoa! Hello there, partner. I guess he wants to sign the painting. Look at that.
If you had him, what would you name him? I think I'd call him Bruce, because depending on the conversation, you could say it's Bruce Wayne or Bruce Banner. Getting older ain't the problem. Watching the world get dumber is. That is true in many ways. The original charcuterie board. They're not wrong. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in 1987. Who can remember the name of the guy that's inside the robot suit? The 50s and 60s, the 80s, the 20s. No indoctrination allowed. Math, English, geography, science, life skills, shop, woodworking, and history only. One thing's for certain, the schools across the Western nations, and especially in the US, don't do anything except push propaganda that fits the current agenda. And that's just a fact. A kid today will tell you this is a pizza thingy, and 80s kids will tell you this is furniture for Barbie and G.I. Joe.
Again?
My cat!
Are you sure? Positive?
Bye, kitty!
Uh-oh.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but this is not a nightlight. Maybe not today, but it certainly was back in our days. When you're over 50 and the doctor tells you to put ice on where it hurts the most. Well, I hope I never get that bad, but sometimes it does kind of feel that way. Here's something I came across this week that I thought was pretty interesting about Back to the Future 1. It's the scene where 1955 Doc is setting up the cables at the clock tower. But in the background, behind him, we see an out-of-focus person riding by on a bike. He has a black coat, a tan hat, and brown pants. Now, if we skip and go to the Back to the Future 2, you have 1985 Doc. He shows up and sees 1955 Doc setting up, right? And he just happens to be wearing the exact same clothes and riding a bicycle. So the real question is, did they intentionally create a role for this actor who they had playing this background character in Back to the Future 1 just so they could then have it be Doc Brown later in Back to the Future 2? Looking back now, we would think this is obviously the case. However, Back to the Future 1 was not supposed to be a major blockbuster movie. As a matter of fact, it was pushed down the list and rejected multiple times over multiple different reasons and by different people. And even when they did finally start to make the movie, it had a very limited budget. There was a lot of casting issues. The script was apparently being rewritten and changed over and over again. Many of you probably even know that Michael J. Fox wasn't even the original Marty. There was another actor that was playing the role during the first 6 weeks of filming, but for whatever reason, it didn't work out. So, they actually had to start all over again when Michael J. Fox joined the cast and took on the role of Marty. Popular vintage Pyrex patterns. I did not know that they actually had names. However, there's a few patterns that I remember that they don't seem to be showing here.
Here she goes. Get that. Oh. Sorry, Linda. She doesn't want to discuss it. She threw it back in the bag. She stomped off. She struck the producer. She hit a cameraman. We'll be back after this.
Yeah, you can definitely tell that Bob wasn't really happy with this, but he also had to keep the show going because the cameras were rolling. Replace or add to an 80s song title with the word toilet. How about toilet under pressure? What do you guys think the best one would be? Never judge a book by its cover. Except that one. Seriously, put it down. Things that were normal in the 80s, but are socially unacceptable today. Okay, for the sake of the video, I'm gonna have to limit this just to one, because this list could never end, honestly. With that said, how about just telling someone the truth? That's pretty much socially unacceptable these days. Chuck Norris built the hospital he was born in. It feels weird being the same age as old people. Every year, our aunt in Maine sends us little handmade chocolate lobsters. This year, they're soap. Guess how I found out? You gotta respect someone who plays the long game. I think the 1965 through 70 Mustangs had the best body style. As a matter of fact, my favorite car of all time is actually either a 67 or a 68 Mustang Fastback.
Hi, I'm Woodsy Owl. In order to try and stop pollution, we need more help. So, help Woodsy spread the word. Come on, never be a dirty bird. No matter where you go, you can let some people know to give a hoot, don't pollute. Never be a dirty bird. In the city or in the woods, help keep America looking good.
I'm sorry to say, guys, but this is how the narrative for global warming and climate change first began. I mean, seriously, think about it. Even though at that time, most of the messages that they were putting out was about not leaving trash and not polluting, don't burn the forest down, those sorts of things, which all makes perfectly good sense. However, think about where those messages were mostly put out from and who they were giving them to. If you really think about it, the number one places they were pushed was in the schools and on children's television programs and cartoons. And they've been doing the same thing ever since until you end up with the mess that we have today. I didn't need self-help books. I had a grandma who didn't sugarcoat anything. This is probably what happened when they traveled to 2026. Superman had the worst disguise. Hold my Gatorade. I wish my bank account refilled as fast as my laundry basket. Man, ain't that the truth. But at least we have the clothes to wash. A hidden image of a screaming face can be seen on the knife-wielding hand on the Halloween poster, 1978. I feel like that's something that no one would ever really see until it's pointed out. Now you can't unsee it. Today's pop quiz question was, before MTV launched nationwide in 1981, what was the first cable channel devoted entirely to music videos, debuting a full year earlier in 1980? The answer is Sight and Sound Video Jukebox, a short-lived HBO experiment that basically paved the way for MTV's format. So yeah, technically, Gen X invented MTV before MTV. Top things taught to Gen X that are now completely useless. Typing a double space at the end of a sentence. Roman numerals. How to crab walk. Writing a check. How to write in cursive. That skill is certainly not useless. As a matter of fact, might come in pretty handy. Bowling scores on paper. Playing a recorder. Lotus 1, 2, 3. Keeping your wrist bent forward and your arms and hands lifted as you type, because carpal tunnel rocked. The food pyramid. Well, the ones from recent years are certainly garbage. Juggling in gym class. Now this is something I don't remember. Did any of you guys learn to juggle while you were in gym? Square dancing. And number 1, that Pluto was a planet. Well, no matter what they say about Pluto, one thing will never change. Pluto will always be a great dog. When your kid wants to be both a hot dog and Michael Myers. That was how Oscar Myers was born. I was today years old when I found out Michael Keaton was the trolley operator on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Well, that's something I never knew. What's the worst car to replace the DeLorean if they remade Back to the Future? There's only one answer for this, really, and that's a Cybertruck. Would you guys agree? Let me know in the comments. I know that all of you clearly remember Publishers Clearinghouse, right? How many of us send in those sweepstakes almost every time we got them, just because there's always that chance that maybe Ed McMahon would show up with that big check at your front door, right? We all remember seeing the TV commercials, as well as seeing the reaction videos of when they show up at somebody's house and they open the door and there's Ed McMahon with a big check and a bunch of balloons telling you that you won $1 million. There's only one problem, guys. Today, they claim Ed McMahon never worked at Publishers Clearinghouse, nor did he make any commercials for Publishers Clearinghouse. This is the topic that this woman here is talking about. However, she's also found some fragments that apparently got missed. Check out this clip.
All right, first you need to know that I am willing to die on this hill. So if you're going to come in the comments and disagree with me, you better bring it. If you were a kid in the 80s and 90s, your parents got these envelopes in the mail from the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. And you could fill it out and send it in for a chance to win like $1 million. And if you won that $1 million, a guy named Ed McMahon would show up on your porch with a big ass check, some balloons, and a camera crew and knock on your door and film your reaction. We all remember this, right? Wrong. It never happened. Ed McMahon never worked for, made commercials for, or was affiliated with the PCH in any way possible. And the internet is backing this up. You can't find footage of Ed McMahon delivering checks on the internet. It's been wiped from existence. They're saying that we're all wrong. It's something called the Mandela effect, where this large group of people remember something incorrectly and nobody can explain why. His face was on the envelopes! There's even TV shows that referenced this happening.
What? I'm one of the winners of the Publishers Clearinghouse? Ed McMahon wants to see me right away?
So what, is the entire internet like lying to us? Did they get together with PCH and be like, hey, let's with the whole world and tell them that Ed McMahon never did this? Or did he really never do it and there was a glitch in the Matrix and we were living in a parallel universe? Like, I could not sleep last night. My brain hurts. And I need somebody smarter than me to figure this out. One more time for the people who don't listen. Ed McMahon worked for Publishers Clearinghouse. He delivered big checks to people's front doorsteps, and it has been wiped from the internet. I don't need Google. I don't need YouTube. I lived it. I know what happened. So stop sending me links to old commercials that he did for American Family Prizes. The dude had money problems. He worked a lot of places. I'm not saying he did not work for that company. You showing me that he worked one place does not prove that he did not work another. So take your Google links and shove them up. Now I know what you're thinking. Why would the government or anyone else go through the trouble of wiping Ed McMahon videos off of the internet? I think 100% that this is a social experiment. It's a psychological experiment. People do these all the time. They've done way more f***ed up ones than this. Just ask the guys from 3 Identical Strangers. If you have not seen that, you need to. It's amazing. So in this situation, I do think that they want to see how far they can push us. What will the American public believe if you take away what they knew? And at what point will they stop trusting their own memory and just go with the facts that are presented to them? Because let's be real, that would be a real interesting study. That would be something that would come real handy for lots of different agencies. You can't gaslight me. You can't. I'm ungaslightable.
Bucks, the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes, and they conducted a poll, and they found out the number one reason people don't enter that thing is they say $1 million is not worth the nightmare of meeting Ed McMahon.
I'm trying to win the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. I have to get a big check from Ed McMahon.
No, Ed McMahon, our good friend, could not be here. You are the $1 million winner.
Nice try. Didn't work. Rest in peace, Ed McMahon.
Don't talk about loyalty if you don't know who this kid is. Yep, that is very true. How to check a price. Turn on the location services on your phone for the best results. No, if it's too difficult for you to show a price, then I'm certainly not going to waste my time jumping through hoops to find one. I fully agree. Came across this yesterday. Apparently, Home Depot is now selling a life-size R2-D2. It's funny how we grew up without helmets, seatbelts, or sunscreen. Yet, here we are. That is very true. Also, if you really dig in and do some real research on sunscreen, it's actually really bad for you. I'll end today's show with this. My ambition was to be one of the people who made a difference in this world. My hope is to leave the world a little better for having been there. Jim Henson. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider hitting that like and subscribe, and share the videos with your family and friends. But that's it for today's show, but I'll see you guys back here on tomorrow's show. Until then, I thank you all for watching. You guys take care and stay safe this week. This is Akorn, over and out.
Here you go, sugar. Nice and easy. That's it. Good boy, just like last night. I'll be right inside if you need more. You behave now.